Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk all about investment and growth with regards to GDP. So investment is private spending on tools, plant, and equipment used to produce future output. This is things like your capital purchases, changes in business inventories, and new residential housing. This includes small purchases like tools, as well as other more substantial spending like equipment, computers, and factories. Inventories are goods that have been produced but not yet sold, representing a future increase in output. An increase in inventory allows the firm to produce more and is an investment in the future. Some examples: a large book printing company is confident that demand for books and magazines will be robust in the months ahead. So they increase their supply of paper so they won't have a shortage whenever demand increases. Paper takes a long time to deliver from factories, and if the company does not have the paper on hand when the orders come through, they'll end up losing businesses. Here's another example for you on investment and consumption. In 2017, Ford produces $20 million worth of trucks. However, only 16 million or 400 trucks times 40,000 each are bought. So 16 million goes to consumption while the other 4 million goes to investment because those trucks are kept as inventory. In 2018, the remaining 100 trucks worth $4 million are bought, which means that consumption went up by 4 million since those trucks are no longer in inventory. And because those trucks are no longer in inventory, they have to be subtracted. So overall investment would decrease by 4 million. The net result is that consumption goes up by 20 million and investment did not change. Government purchases include spending on goods and services by state, local, and federal governments. This includes things like employee salaries, public work projects, schools, national defense, and post offices. Transfer payments are government outlays to households, including welfare and Social Security. Transfer payments are not included as part of the government purchases. While transfer payments do increase household income, this does not fit into the expenditure definition of GDP. However, when households spend this income, it does enter into GDP as part of consumption or investment. Imports are subtracted from the total level of GDP because they were not produced here, even if they are used here. GDP is intended to measure domestic production. Exports enter positively into the GDP equation because they are part of domestic production. Imports and exports are something that we'll discuss in more detail later in your book, but a trade deficit is not necessarily a bad thing for the United States, even though it does decrease our overall GDP. All else equal, a trade deficit implies that people in the United States are consuming more goods and services overall. This is a graph that shows you the composition of US GDP in 2018. It's something that might be interesting for you to read over on your own as you're working on your studying and preparing for your exam. Here's a practice what you know. Based on the graph that we saw, what is the biggest component of GDP? The correct answer here is A, or consumption. Consumption is much bigger than the other components at $10 trillion each year. Net exports are actually negative since we end up importing more than we export in the US. This slide shows you how we can calculate growth rates. So growth rates are calculated using a percent change formula. That's what the percentage next to the triangle means. We take value t minus value t minus 1 divided by value t minus 1 times 100. Another way that you can read this is that you take your current year minus your base year divided by base year and then multiply that times 100. This gives us our nominal growth rate, and they show you that calculation, for example, in 2018. This is just the new minus the old, all divided by the old, and then multiplied by 100. A negative growth rate means the economy is contracting or headed towards a recession, while a positive growth rate means that the economy is expanding. To find inflation, we use the same formulas for GDP growth. So here we have our price level GDP deflator growth rate, which is just the percentage change of the price level. And they give you an example with numbers from table 6.5. So they take the price level growth rate for 2018 minus our base year, divided by our base year, and then times 100, and that gives us our percent change in the price level of 1.9%. Another useful formula is the percentage change in nominal GDP, and that's just the percentage change in real GDP plus that percentage change in the price level. This is something you'll see a lot in your homework, and it's good for you to practice on to get very comfortable before you get to those exams. Here they give you an example from table 6.5, and they take GDP in 2018 minus GDP in 2017 divided by 2017 GDP and times 100, and that gives us a percent change in nominal GDP of 4.1%. And because it is a positive number, we can assume that the economy was in fact expanding. That's going to wrap up this video. If you're feeling okay with everything here, you can go ahead and move on to the last video on GDP shortcomings and the conclusion. Thank you.